This meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no announcements tonight, so we will go right into the public hearing for the Class 2 auto license transfer for 50 North Main Street. Mayor Auto Repair Charles Mayer, would you like to come up and have a seat? And I believe you're going to read the...
Yep, I have the notice. Yep.
Perfect.
The Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, to hear citizen comments on the application of Charles Meyer, DBA Meyer Auto Repair, to transfer the Class 2 auto license located at 50 North Main Street from John Hall, DBA Sam's Auto Sales, 50 North Main Street, North Grafton, Massachusetts. The meeting begins at 7 p.m. in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road. Remote meeting participation will also be available. The Zoom link has been posted in the January 3, 2023 Select Board agenda. Interested citizens are invited to attend this public hearing and offer any written or oral comments. Written comments must be received by the Select Board's office by noon, Wednesday, December 28, 2022. Grafton Select Board, Colleen Roy Chair, Matt Offen Vice Chair, Andrew Jefferson Clerk, Ray Mead, Anne Marie Foley. Published in the Grafton News, December 8th, 2022 and December 15th, 2022, also posted to the Town Bulletin Board and webpage. I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. Okay, so would you like to tell us a little bit about your application?
I got an auto repair shop in North Grafton. John just said it was a good idea to transfer it into my name because he wanted to cancel it and didn't want to have to pay for it, so that's what I'm doing. I don't really sell used cars, but maybe in the future.
Gotcha.
I just wanted to stay open to it.
Okay, perfect. Is anybody in attendance or on Zoom here to speak to this issue? I don't see anyone in the room. Nobody on Zoom.
No hands on Zoom.
All right, does the board have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I can take a motion to close the public hearing.
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And we can take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve the Class 2 auto license transfer to Charles Mayer, DBA Mayer Auto Repair, from John Hall, DBA Sam's Auto Sales at 50 North Main Street in North Grafton.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck with the business. Thank you.
We will be passing over appointments tonight. Per our policy, they needed to be posted on our Facebook page, so we will be putting those up as soon as possible and bringing them back. The applicants that were on the agenda tonight do not need to reapply. They'll just automatically transfer over. And moving on to Treasurer Collector's Office.
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Jack Henderson to the position of Department Assistant Treasurer Collector's Office.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. Congratulations. And tonight we're going to meet our newly appointed town planner, Fiona Coughlin, who is joining us on Zoom. Hi, Fiona. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Hi, Chair Roy, Vice Chair Offen, and members of the board. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm looking forward to working with all of you going forward, and I'm excited. I'm still playing catch up, as you can imagine, but can't wait to continue to work together and all the good things to come.
Excited. Well, welcome aboard. Does the board have any questions or comments for Fiona?
Just one comment. Anything we can do, as always, to support the planning function and the planning department in Grafton, we're all about it. So just let us know and make sure that we keep a good open line of communication.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming in. It was lovely to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you all.
Welcome to Grafton.
Up next is 244 Worcester Street transfer request. Evan's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, so, received this letter from, the, current owners of the facility, or the site, and they're looking to transfer it into another name. So we've been going back and forth for a better part of 2 weeks with, different attorneys, and what basically is happening is we've extended the period in which we have to respond. They are gonna go before the planning board on the 9th. Our council has recommended that the planning board approve the change. It's not deemed substantive in our council's opinion, and it's more procedural than anything else. So I would suspect that they will take it up on the 9th, and then it will be back. Fiona, it comes back before the select board after that.
Correct. Yes.
So it'll be the same question, just extended out. There was an issue with mail delivery. It was posted the 7th and got here on the 16th, which just threw all the timelines off. But the owner and the owner's attorney have been very easy to work with, and we just extended out the dates.
Do we know what's actually happening?
So there is pending litigation, and we don't have any update on what's happening in land court. So in speaking with their attorney, there has been no movement, which is why there's no, everything hasn't been recorded yet and everything else. So, Fiona, if you have a different understanding than that, please jump in, but that's where it was left with me, earlier this afternoon, with the back and forth with their attorney.
Could be in land court for years.
Yeah, so how does that, 43D has a certain requirements for planning board and,
Yep.
turnbacks of permitting and all that kind of stuff. It's all effectively just on pause right now until that gets
Yeah,
sorted?
we've met all of our benchmarks that we need to hit.
Yep,
We can't control land court, and so
course.
that's all in their jurisdiction. So, as soon as that clears, they would be able to, well, presuming that it's favorable to the developer.
Yeah.
They'd be able to record, and then, 43D is essentially
and then it's
closed.
game on, okay.
And I just have a question. So I know we're not moving on this tonight, but they're looking to just transfer the permit or the
Yep, so-
ownership? Like it's a different LLC than
Right.
current?
So the original applicant was Church and Banks, and they were intended to proceed with the acquisition of the property subject to the special permit in January. So it's basically just going under this. They want to transfer the permit to C&B 99 Chestnut LLC, which I'm assuming is there's a development company that comes in and they do all the work, and then they create a LLC to hold just that one that one building, or that one property, so that the rest of the company is insulated from anything that happens at
Okay.
the site.
And it's the
It's
front
like,
parcel.
yeah, you see that a lot with rental properties too. That'll be like, 1 Mill Street LLC, and that's what they're doing.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we'll look forward to having this come back after the planning board gets a chance to review it. Up next is the 48 Meadowbrook Road, Chapter 61A. Both planning and conservation voted for the board to pass over. Does the board have any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none, I can take a motion.
I move the board vote not to exercise the first right of refusal option to purchase a portion of the land known as and numbered 48 Meadowbrook Road, Grafton, MA.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. Up next is the Environmental Sustainability Committee update. It doesn't appear that there were any changes in the packet, Emery.
No, I'd like to just pass over that tonight.
Okay. And then up next is the opt-in to the Massachusetts Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE program, and Evan has a little bit about that.
Yep. So we've been working with Mass Development on a number of different initiatives to try to make Grafton a little bit more attractive to developers and commercial entities, but also maintain our drive towards environmental sustainability. And when we had our last meeting up at Tufts, where we had that Grafton's open for business, we really started drilling down with Mass Development on some of the things that they have in the pipeline that they think would be right up our alley. One of them is the PACE program. PACE program it's Property Assessed Clean Energy Massachusetts is what the title is. And it's a program where if you were a commercial owner in Grafton or an industrial owner in Grafton and wanted to make some upgrades to your facility that are environmentally sustainable and fall under the state's best practices, the state will be the private capital financier, and you can get a 0% interest loan from the state to go ahead and do those upgrades, whether they're solar, geothermal. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do. The only thing that the municipality does is we have to actually facilitate a betterment and collect the money via taxes. And then we actually act as like a pass-through. So the town can collect up to 2% for being that pass-through. I think it would probably depend on the amount and, you know, what we think is fair. It's not going to be that much staff time. I think that it's worth it for the town of Grafton to take on that little bit of risk of, you know, having staff time devoted to the betterment process, to be able to offer this for the businesses in Grafton to take advantage of and maybe create some really sustainable partnerships. So it's really the intent of it. I did send over a link. There's a link that's in the packet. If anybody's interested, you can go. State's got videos and a whole bunch of other stuff. We'd be one of, I think there's only 14 other communities right now that have adopted this. So we'd be kind of on that leading edge in Massachusetts. So
Yeah, the website was pretty cool.
yeah, Mass Development is doing some really cool things. They've got kind of a new team that's just really excited about things. Our Mass Development rep, PACE isn't even his program. And he just kept talking to me about PACE because he's so excited about it, and they're doing some really cool stuff. So, yeah, really neat stuff, and I would appreciate it if the board would consider adopting a resolution to make Grafton a PACE community. We'd then be advertised with the state and able to offer that to people when they're looking to either come here or to existing businesses that are here.
Would that need to go before a town meeting at all? If
Nope.
We're gonna be, okay.
Nope, we're just, it's a select board vote to adopt the resolution, and it's facilitated by the finance team, which is under me, so.
Very nice. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Just a quick one. Who would it impact, staff-wise?
Mostly, I'd say mostly the collector's office and accountant. So it, mostly financial side of the house, but minimally. We have betterments that we do. We created a new, or we added a betterment module in Vadar when we did the switchover.
Yeah.
To automate that even more. So I really don't see a reason why we wouldn't be able to absorb that. I don't think it's going to be a burden on staff time once we do the initial setup. It's just a matter of tracking it and making sure that we're acting appropriately between collecting the money and giving the money to the state.
Yep.
So,
Got it.
yeah, and I think, you know, some of these projects are millions of dollars. So I don't think that, you know, 2% of millions of dollars is probably more money than we need to collect. It kind of is the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is entice people to, one, want to do this and stay in Grafton or come to Grafton and do this. So we would, I'm sure, negotiate some kind of fair, you know, whatever that amount is, if we feel that there's even an impact on staff time.
Makes sense. Okay.
So.
Would there have to be a policy around that to say it's always 1% or is it gonna be a case by case, what percent?
I haven't even thought that far in advance. I think when we get somebody on the line, that we'll probably create policy as we go, because I think there's probably a lot of things that we're not gonna anticipate of how that plays out. And I think, honestly, I'd like to be really flexible at the beginning to see what works and what doesn't work, and hopefully we can actually get one of these projects to get off the ground, because I think it's a really cool approach.
That money collected, is that earmarked to anything? Does Grafton then have to reinvest that towards some kind of sustainable?
No, it would just get, because it's part of the betterment collection, it would just get swept into the general fund.
Okay.
You could create some kind of a stabilization fund and move the money over. I envision it not being that much money, so I don't know that we would do that. I think we might just.
I was thinking about putting it in OPEB, but
Yeah. Well, we would have more money in the general fund that gets swept into free cash to move into OPEB. So, but yes, it would be And you could also make a policy that says you will take that money and put it into OPEB and then just calculate that every year and have that added to the total that you vote at town meeting. Could do it that way too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right.
I move the board vote to adopt the resolution authorizing the town of Grafton to participate in the Massachusetts Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And now William takes over for a better part of the evening.
That's great. I do love to hear myself talk.
Can I go back?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have to read this section on the
Okay.
record. So
The pace.
all of it. So not all the whereases, Andy, but if we could get to the select board of the town of Grafton hereby approves the municipality participating in PACE. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't practice this one, so we'll see how it goes. The Select Board of the Town of Grafton hereby approves the municipality participating in PACE Massachusetts pursuant to the PACE Act and authorizes the mayor/town manager to enter into a PACE Massachusetts Municipal Assessment and Assignment Agreement, quote, the agreement, with Mass Development, pursuant to which the municipality will agree to 1. Levy PACE betterment assessments and impose PACE betterment assessment liens on benefited properties located in the municipality in the amounts determined by Mass Development to be sufficient to repay the PACE financing. 2. Assign the PACE betterment assessment liens to Mass Development, which Mass Development may in turn assign to the providers of the PACE financing, each a, quote, capital provider, as collateral for such PACE financing. 3. Include the property tax bills for the benefited properties, the installment payments necessary to repay the PACE betterment assessments in the amounts and at the times as determined by Mass Development. 4. Collect and pay over to Mass Development or its designee the PACE betterment assessment installment payments as and when collected. And 5. Enforce to the extent required by the agreement the PACE betterment assessments and liens. The agreement to be substantially in the form presented to this meeting with such changes, modifications, and insertions as the mayor/town manager may approve as being in the best interest of the municipality. The collector treasurer of the city/town or such other city/town agency as may be designated in the agreement is authorized to levy such PACE betterment assessments and impose the PACE betterment assessment liens on behalf of the city/town without further authorization by this legislative body. Notwithstanding any other provisions to the law contrary, officers and officials of the municipality, including without limitation, municipal tax assessors and tax collectors, are not personally liable to Mass Development or to any other person for claims of whatever kind or nature under or related to PACE Massachusetts, including without limitation, claims for or related to uncollected PACE betterment assessments. Other than fulfillment of the obligations specified in the agreement, the municipality has no liability to the owner of the benefited property or to any other capital provider related to the municipality's participation in PACE Massachusetts.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And that doesn't have to be in a motion. We can't.
I would say that was your motion.
All right. Do I need a second?
Yes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried.
Now, Andy, if we can go back to the beginning. Just kidding. Thank you.
I did hear him stutter at one point. I think he needs to start over.
Yes,
There were a couple little,
that was pretty good
You
for
did
on the
great.
fly.
You did great.
Yeah.
some long words in there.
There are. I'm going to talk to him about that.
All right. So let's talk about the certificate of good standing policy.
Yeah, so this is a policy that we brought before the board a few months ago, and there were some questions and some revisions that we now have the answers to, so we're bringing it back. The biggest thing that the board had questions on was the length of time that the certificate is valid for. We have it in the policy for 30 days. There was question on whether or not that is stated anywhere in Mass General Law. Evan and I both looked separately. There's nothing in Mass General Law stating how long it needs to be valid for. However, in discussing it, we think that since the purpose of this policy is sort of on a per application basis, keeping that time frame in there to keep applicants moving might behoove the board and the town. But we've done the research, we've made the changes, and we'll now just bring it back before the board for approval.
Wonderful. Does the board have any questions or comments? Thank you for that explanation and history. Hearing none, I can take a motion.
I was just gonna say, the reason it's 30 days is because that's the amount of time it takes for the financial system to trigger if you're not in good standing. That's why it's a 30-day cycle.
Makes sense.
Sorry, go ahead.
I move the board vote to approve and sign their certificate of good standing policy as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And up next is the Code Red Emergency Notification System Policy Review.
So similarly, this is one that was before the board a little while ago. We have the answers to the questions that were asked. Primarily with the Code Red policy, it was how long our contract with Code Red is. I found out that we renew it on a yearly basis. So we added this second paragraph in here, essentially enumerating that while we renew it on a yearly basis in the event that the town should ever decide to sever that service agreement, a new emergency notification vendor will be found, and this policy would be adjusted following a new contract just to make sure that we're acting in the best interest of the new system.
All right. Any questions or comments?
I just had a comment, just
Yeah.
affected, it's affected with an A, just up in the third line there, which actually, I did find the other policies after digging, it was in the old one too. It's just with an A instead of an E. And then my other question was only just, we're not doing like, there was an incident report, like in the old system, we're not doing that, we don't feel the need or,
No, it records every single thing you did.
okay,
So, forever. So, if there was ever a question of who did what or why it was used that way, you can go and replicate the exact same thing.
perfect, okay.
Can we just send a copy of the updated policy to the chief of police and anybody that's an authorized user, just so they have it handy as well?
Yep.
Great. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, I can take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the Code Red Emergency Notification System Policy / Procedure as amended.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And up next is the Public Access Broadcast Closed Caption Policy Review. And this has been vetted by Cable Access and the Accessibility Committee.
Yeah, so this policy was an effort between cable access, accessibility, and the town administrator's office. Now that we have this new closed captioning service available, there's a limited amount of closed captioning that we can receive based on the funding that we have with the service. So we decided that it would be a good idea to have a policy that specifically says who the first priority boards and committees are and outline the process for if a committee not in this policy wanted closed captioning, just so it's in writing somewhere for everybody to see so they know what's going on.
I like that it's also alphabetical.
Yep, I did want to point that out. So in our cable coverage policy, it's listed by priority. This is alphabetical because each one of these committees will always have closed captioning.
Perfect. Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I can take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the Public Access Broadcast Closed Caption Policy as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And the Road Opening and Patching Procedures Review.
Yeah. So this is a very long, detailed policy with a lot of edits in there. It seemed like this policy hadn't been updated in about a decade, and so I sat down with Paul Knoyer, Matt Maynard, Brian Cesarco, and Kevin Gallagher, and we went through it page by page. A lot of it is updating the codes and regulations from the state that need to be followed whenever you open a new road, or changing the materials that are used to seal the road. So they have vetted this. It meets all of the DPW standards. It meets the standard contract they have for anybody who opens a road. I can go through it paragraph by paragraph if you'd like, but that would take quite a bit of time.
I'm good. If anybody has a specific paragraph that they want to go over, I think we can start there. Does that jump out to anybody? It's really nice to hear there's such a big team effort on trying to make sure that this came out well, which is good.
Yeah, I would recommend moving forward. This is probably a policy we want to look at every year
Okay.
because it seems like the regulations from the state change on a yearly basis, and just keeping it current is probably in the best interest of the town.
So you'll put that on your calendar?
Yep,
remind-
I sure will.
Excellent.
Yeah, you own it now.
I know. I knew what I was doing before I said it.
Okay. All right. Well,
I tell you nothing.
if there's any questions or comments from the board, and if there are none, I can take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the road opening and patching procedures as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. It's really nice to see that in the policies. It was my Christmas present. I just know it.
You know, I thought of you the entire time I was
Sure you
rewriting them.
did. All right, and then last but not least is the library building construction update.
Yeah. So the library construction team has been meeting pretty much weekly for the better part of the last year to discuss some of the final items. I'm happy to report that all of them are in progress, and I think that we are approaching the point where we will be no longer reliant on CTA, DRA, or any of the other contractors who we've been contracted with. So to give you a quick rundown of the things that we are still working on, first is the humidifier in the historic documents room. So we have been in contact with a company in Canton to order the unit that DRA specified for us. I was talking to our contact there today. We're waiting on the quote, but as soon as we get that, we'll be able to place the order. We'll get it in, and we'll be able to install it. That's something that we received a credit from CTA for, because we took that out of their scope of work. The barn doors in the maker space and the community room, we're moving forward with the change order we received from CTA to do that. The doors are, we're currently waiting on the final shop drawings from Chandler, which we will receive no later than the end of this week or the beginning of next week. And as soon as we receive and approve those, once approved, materials will be released to fabrication, so that's something that is very quickly coming down the pipeline. There's a gate installed at the bottom of the stairs by the ADA accessible entrance. We need that so that way we can use the community space after library hours. That gate has finally been installed and there is a lock on it. Essentially all we're waiting for there is to fix and patch the wall behind the gate when it is open. And the 3 form panels in there that are sort of this foggy white color, those should be a foggy green, and so the contractor is going to come out and change those to make it compliant with what we ordered. You may have seen Evan's email. We do have an active leak in the community room. We think we know where that's coming from. We have a site meeting tomorrow with CTA, Chandler, and Marmello, 3 of the contractors who worked on it. Our hope is that at 1 o'clock tomorrow when we're on site, we'll be able to properly assess all of it and get that fixed as quickly as possible. We've got some rain coming up and we don't want any more leaks. The HVAC controls are something that we've been working on for a little while. The distributor box in the children's program room was recently replaced. So LG will be on site this week. They may have actually been on site today. I haven't followed up. But they're remapping the system, and as soon as it's remapped, they'll be able to relink it to the system so that way we can remote in and change all of it. We're having mill work done on several counters throughout the library. That's the last thing we need for them to be ADA compliant to receive our full certificate of occupancy. There was a holdup on DRA's part. They're paying for it, and the contractor who is doing the mill work will be starting the middle of this month. They estimate that'll take about 5 weeks to get done. And finally, our lead assessment is, according to our lead contractor, 98% done. I don't know what the last 2% is, but we're getting there. And once all of that is finalized, we'll be receiving the funds from the lead points in about 18 months.
Excellent. Thank you. Does the
Ray, any questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got as you walk in, There's now a gate at the bottom of those stairs?
Yes.
Is there any other way to access the second floor other than going up those stairs?
Elevators.
Yes, there's an elevator and
Okay, so now that's locked. So if somebody goes up the elevator, gets onto the second floor, and has to get out, and has to come down those stairs, the gate's locked unless it's got a push bar on it. Does it have a push bar on it?
it does. The gate will also only be locked when they when they are using the community room after library hours, in which case they can lock the door on the other end and lock the elevator.
So it's only locked on one side,
Yeah.
correct.
so it's got a push bar on
It
the other
does. Yeah,
side.
there's a crash
Yes.
bar on the back.
Okay. Okay, the other thing is, the cupola.
Yep.
What's going on with that?
So the cupola, we've had insurance out to look at it. They're going to be able to fix the roof underneath the cupola where it was leaking. We've also had David King Contractors, who was the one who oversaw the renovations of the cupola about 20 years ago, out to take a look at it again. They're putting together an estimate for us to oversee renovations again, as well as wrap the cupola for the rest of the winter. And we're waiting to.
With a blue top?
No, with
No.
the white boat wrap looking stuff.
Okay. And where is the money coming from for that?
We don't really know yet.
So, Mass Historic has a new grant cycle starting in a couple of months. Beth plans to run down that grant for the repairs. Anything outside of what we get in the grant, we would need to talk about.
Capital campaign still has money too, the library capital.
That's what I was gonna get to.
Yep.
That money should come out of the library. Whatever campaign they have, whatever money they have, should come out of that. That never should have, never should have gone through this project without fixing that cupola. I have no idea why that didn't take place. I also have no idea why we don't have a generator at that building. But that's another whole issue. But this stuff, in my opinion, can't come out of the town funds. It's gotta come out of the library funds. Because I'm not sure why this stuff was overlooked. I really don't. And I mean, I have issues with some of the change orders that went on in the place, but, you know, it's water over the dam now. But I'm not crazy about that gate at the bottom of the stairs. And, you know, that is, I'm assuming Bob looked at it and said that was okay.
Yes.
So, because you're supposed to have a landing at the bottom. As you come down the stairs, there's supposed to be a landing. So that you step down the stairs and then you step onto the floor, and then the gate should be past that. That's where it should be. Doesn't sound like that's where it is.
No, I think you probably only have like 18, 20 inches from that last step to the gate.
Probably thereabouts. Yeah.
Right. So, it's just something that, and if Bob said it was okay, you know, that's on him. I don't believe it's okay, and I don't believe it meets any ADA or fire safety, exit systems at all.
I can follow up with Bob tomorrow. My understanding is the last thing holding up the full certificate of occupancy in the building is the ADA counters. I believe everything else has been
Yep.
approved, but I'll follow up and ask about that specifically.
Yep. So, that's all I have. I really don't want the town to spend any more money on this building that should have been spent before. So, that's all I got. But Will, great job, you know.
Yeah, Will's been.
And no,
Busting
both
his
of you, you know, both of you, you and I talked right before you went, you know, climbing on the roof, and boy, that goes up one side of me and down the other, that, you know, you guys are up in the ceiling and you're up on the roof checking roof leaks.
We figured it out though.
That's great, and, you know.
So can we get a quick update on that? Because I read through all the email trails and
Sure.
whatnot. But
Sure. So,
I think that was right before you guys were gonna do that next level of investigation.
yeah, so we went the 23rd. It was real rainy that day, and so the leak was active again, which has been one of the problems, is getting there when it's active and actually seeing it. So Will and I met there, went up into the ceiling. There is the community room is a 1-story room, and that butts up against the building proper, which is 2-story plus. Where it meets there, there's an I-beam that supports that whole side of the building. The top edge of that I-beam, and I'm going to point because I can picture it in my head, was wet for about 25 feet. But that looked like it was probably just adhesion and moving off to the sides. There's one active leak that's about 2 feet off of where the retractable screen is. We were able to identify that and get video of that. And then there's one over by where the, excuse me, with the hit puberty there for a second, where the data closet is. There's a penetration in the metal corrugated roof. So that tells you there's water between the membrane and the corrugated roof, and it's coming out there. But if you then go to the exterior of the building, there's really no way for that to be happening because that membrane is closed and we weren't able to replicate a leak during the water testing, right? Yep. So it's got to be higher than that. And so there's flashing right there along that edge of the building, which is under, if you were in the library and you were in the staff break room and you looked out at the green roof, there's flashing right there. So it's either there, and when you get a wind-driven event, it's going against the building and down.
Yep.
Or it's higher than that because there's a cavity between the brick and the building that's supposed to let water travel and then weep out. And so they are tomorrow going to figure out where they think it is. I'm assuming they're going to probably spray it again and try to replicate it. And then if they can't locate it that way, then they're actually going to do some exploratory demolition to try to see if they can figure out where that is. But it's right there. It's not, the original thing was, it was the roof drain, it was a scupper, it was, there was a couple other, it was where the conduit penetrations are, and it's none of those things. It's all up from there. So, we were able to capture it, and, I think we made better progress then than has been made in 6 months. So I think it was a worthwhile trip. Then Timber got to hang out in the library for a while. My puppy, everyone was pretty excited about that.
All right.
I lost him in the children's room for a bit, but we found him. So that was good.
So back on the roof,
Yes, sorry.
there's also another way that you can find leaks in buildings like that using a thermal imaging camera.
Mhm.
So that's a very easy way, if you have access to that area, to find leaks. The other thing is that going on this green roof, is the warranty for the roof valid or not valid?
Not valid.
For the entire membrane roof, it is not valid.
The membrane roof over the community room.
Because a green roof was put on and it was not designed for a green roof. Is that what it is?
It was not designed for a green roof, but it also wasn't installed correctly.
And that wasn't installed by the general contractor.
It was part of the capital campaign.
So a 20-year warranty is down the toilet
Correct.
because,
Yeah, there was supposed to be what looks like to me as a layperson as silt fencing, right? That
yeah.
paper, whatever, woven paper, between the green roof and the membrane that was supposed to be applied. It was not. And so according to our roof vendor, that is what voided the warranty on that.
I'm going to jump on what Ray's saying too, and I know you and I have talked about this before, and we had the library campaign in with CIPC, and I'm still very confused about who's authorizing their spending, who approves it first, who sees it first, because to Ray's point, a roof got put in inappropriately, and who authorized that? Did the trustees even get an opportunity to vote on that first, or were they informed after?
We'd have to go back and look at their minutes. It was my understanding that Capital Campaign wanted to do it, and they went to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees voted. No. Was it? I'm sorry, the building committee that voted it?
It was before my time
Okay.
on building committee.
Let me circle back with how that process rolled out. But I think at the bare minimum, and I think we've corrected that at this point. But there's a breakdown in the chain of authorization to make these change orders and to think through in a very long-term way what that looks like.
Right.
Right. So, we have William and I have stopped a couple of projects that would, in our opinion, be a detriment to the building and the building's integrity. After we got here and got our hands around what was happening. I don't have a great answer for how that came about. We'll do some digging on that. But I also know that we've been very vigilant since then on.
Well, that's reassuring, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take responsibility for the parts that we're responsible for, but that was before our time, and I don't have a great understanding of what that was.
How about the temperature in the building? Is that kind of,
That was what Will Rooney brought up, the LG. So we've been having some temperature fluctuation issues. I will say they've been responsive as of late, coming out 2-3 times a day and trying to get it wrangled. It's really a balancing issue, because you get one room that's 58 and the other one's at 74. And, because we lost that distribution box, they separated it from the building management system, which gave it a little bit, more trouble balancing. So, they have to recommission the whole thing. That either happened today or will happen some point this week.
Yeah, I received an email today that LG was on site doing the remapping. I haven't verified that, but that was last I heard.
okay.
So once, balancing, having built another building, balancing took us a better part of 2 years, to be honest with you. It was always something. And then once you got it to where it needed to be, you just never touch it again and let it do its thing. They're finicky, but this has been an extreme. So hopefully distribution box is in, they remap it, we get it hooked back up to the BMS system, and all is good.
So if we contact the roofer
Mhm.
and say, it's not the roofer, it's the manufacturer, but we'll take the green roof off, we want our warranty back.
Mhm.
I think that's something that we should pursue. If it was put on wrong, it's gonna be an issue. Green roofs are very, very particular on how they go down, the material that goes down, and the type of plant and all of that stuff that goes on there. Because they can be a nightmare. Obviously, they are. We've lost a warranty on a roof, probably a 20-year warranty on a roof, that now the taxpayers are gonna eat. So I'd like to find out if we can get that green roof off of there, or remove it.
Yep.
Install it properly, and put it back.
I-
On the library's dime, not ours.
I think that we already explored this, Ray.
Yeah.
And I think it was no on both accounts from both the
From the manufacturer.
roofer. The green roofing company was willing to do it, I believe, on their dime. And all we would have to pay for is the material. They said, you tell us what you want to happen. But I think that was not going to unvoid the warranty.
Yeah.
But I think we have record of all of that.
Yep.
We'll put it on Will's list of things to.
It's a shot.
Fine.
You don't get if you don't ask.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. The chances of them actually granting it is pretty slim.
Right.
But we just can't have another project like this, that there was so much cowboying going on, as far as I'm concerned, that we can't do this anymore, because this is gonna end up costing the taxpayers a brand new building, beautiful building, great library, but it's gonna end up costing the taxpayers more money because it wasn't done properly. So. And I know people probably don't wanna hear that, but that's the truth.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Yes, so DRA, is that the architect
Yes.
paying
Yeah.
for the counters? Okay, great, because it was their error, I assume.
Yep.
There was
Okay.
an error with the drawings.
Right, I was hoping that's where it was. And when you're talking about the cupola, that's the reason that the ceiling out front is,
Yes.
okay, leaking. And the gate is needed, why? I don't know who to
So when they are going to
when they're
utilize
having a
that
function,
space,
they just
right.
want to close off upstairs.
So you can't just wander the library. So you would gain access to that lower door, via a pass. Be able to access only that part of the library, go in, have your function or your meeting or whatever you're having, and then back out, but you can't wander the rest of the library.
I guess for me, well, the barn doors are also kind of extra for me, but that particular gate, I don't fully get why we need that. But that's just my opinion. And on the capital campaign side of things, I totally agree with you, Ray, but additionally, I would say that the folks on that campaign or who are running it, they also have to think about maintaining other things that they've come up with, such as the plantings, the permaculture area there, these benches and replacing benches that were already there. So just so that it's in the record that I think that that's another issue that those folks did not perhaps, plan for, and that's unfortunate at this point. And then my last thing was just about the charging stations, which is kind of unrelated, but are they fixed? Because I feel like they're still leaning over.
We have ordered the components from the manufacturer, and we're just waiting for them to arrive. And as soon as they get here, it's new base plates we have to order.
So we're just waiting.
Yep, just waiting. They've been on order for 2 months.
A
Probably.
while.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
So when they met with CIPC, part of their rationale of sitting on money is to maintain some of those things. But that's again, that was part of the conversation of, well, how are you prioritizing things? You have a hole in your roof, like, I don't care if a plant's die in 5 years. We need to fix the hole in the roof now. So that was an interesting meeting. If you and Anne-Marie wanted to watch it, because I still feel a little bit more confused even after talking to them about how the whole thing works, and how they're prioritizing their projects, because they still have lists of projects they want to complete.
Yeah, and that's why I was bringing that up, just because they should be thinking about maintaining and fixing what is already there versus adding more things to the library staff and to your office, etc. But I do appreciate that you guys are involved now, and I hope that that's going to help Beth and other folks over there, given that the clerk of the works is, moved on, etc. So,
yeah.
Perfect.
So, I had heard there were some issues with staff being locked out of the thermostat controls as well, or them being offline. Is that part of the rebalancing?
That's because it's not, because the BMS wasn't linked to it. So all of those are part of your BMS, and then the central computer that's not connected to it. So you could push those buttons all you want. That's just not telling it to do anything.
Okay.
So that should all be back online when they reconnect everything.
Right.
I was really impressed. We went in there and the temperature was off, and Will was pushing buttons that he had his eyes closed. He's just, you know what, this will probably get heat on.
I saw our contractor do it and remembered what he did.
Yeah.
I was not just willy-nilly pressing buttons.
Yeah, I think you're always willy-nillying things. Anyways, yeah, but it's been a lot of work, and Will's been really doing a great job staying on top of it. So be happy when we're out of the woods on this one.
Very nice. All right. If that's it for the library, we can move right on to select board reports. It's been a slow couple weeks, so I don't know if anybody has anything. Hearing none.
Ew. I had to go back through notes today to figure out who I had met with since our last meeting. So bylaw review. If everybody sitting here now could go through the articles that we were requested, that select board was requested to review, and get me their notes so I can consolidate that feedback and present it to the committee as soon as you can. That would be great. We will be sending out reminder emails very soon to committees that we haven't heard back from. Although there has been a general good response.
At this point, there's only 2 committees we haven't yet heard from. There are several that we haven't heard them final, but we know they're working on it, like you guys.
Right. And waste reduction and recycling met. We discussed and reviewed a few social posts. William posted our first social post today on the town website. On the town social. That was great. And we're looking to, we discussed some additional outreach on common issues. I'm not sure that the agenda for our next meeting has been posted yet, but we did discuss, it'll be on Wednesday, January 18th, and making sure that both William and Anne Marie were invited to discuss the new composting program efforts in more detail with the committee. I kind of briefed them on what we had discussed here and shared some of the notes from our meeting packet, and how the committee can further assist with that effort.
Very nice. All right.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this is the place to bring up. We just had a question about the website. And just because I just saw it before coming here in the meetings, well, someone brought it to my attention that like the select board meeting tonight wasn't on there. Like if you clicked on the 3rd, which then led me to look at like recreation for next week. It's just information, by the way, so that I don't forget to give it to you.
On the where, on the calendar?
Correct, on the calendar. So like recreation for the 9th, then when I clicked on there, only because I know there's a meeting, it doesn't pull up. And then additionally our open space and rec, just the few that I knew of that I was going to on the 16th. Okay. So the person that reached out to me was clicking and just was wondering, and then that led me to click further.
We're probably gonna talk a little bit about that calendar tomorrow night.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Sure, William.
Yeah.
Okay. Town administrator report.
Sure. There we go. All right, so it's obviously the middle of budget season. The budget's closed December 31st. We have all of them submitted. We'll now start meeting with department heads individually and going line by line through their budgets, revising them, and then we'll have our kind of group strategy session and figure out where we need to be. That'll probably be, over the next few weeks. We'll get that wrapped up. We have our FinCom public hearing. The select board will be invited to that like they were last year. So if you're going to have a quorum, we'll need to post. That will be on January 18th, which I think you just said is your waste reduction.
Yeah.
What we did last year, and I think it worked pretty well, is FinCom and the select board came together. It's just one budget presentation as opposed to two. So if you're available, that would be great to do that.
Can we just post anyway? That way we're just covered.
Oh, we will. I'm just
Great.
trying to.
Yeah, and
Diplomatic.
if you guys are going to have to be involved in that meeting, then that would also limit your attendance in waste reduction. So I'll just email the committee and recommend that we postpone, or at least postpone inviting William and Anne Marie, and do that maybe at our February meeting instead.
Okay.
Either way.
Oh, I'm advancing the slide on my computer that doesn't have it on it. So we met with the Health Alliance today. Our assessment for this year for the budget process is going to be $116,400. That's down from $128,000. And they've got some really they've got new leadership and they've got some new directions that they're heading. Some standardization, some better failover, some better staffing models, and so I'm pretty excited to see how that fleshes out in the upcoming year. It was actually interesting. There was a gentleman that he's new to the Health Alliance, and took us 45 minutes of the meeting to figure out that we had worked together 5 years ago. So that was pretty interesting. But regional dispatch. So I had a meeting with the other towns today. We're continuing to work on the IMA. We're going to have the IMA before the select board by the end of January. That's our current timeline. Because we have to try to make the grant round for March 2nd. So again, this is the next step in the process. This is not the end all be all. This is not, the point of no return. This is the point in which, we need to agree on a certain framework so that we're then eligible for the grant monies. Regionals that have signed IMAs are always higher in the list of awardees than municipalities that have signed letters of interest or things like that. So right now it sounds like Westboro, Southboro, and Grafton are pretty far along. Hopkinton has their public outreach tomorrow. They had a listening session today too, from 3 to 5 or something along those lines. So we'll see how that plays out for them and whether or not they come along. We are looking at 2 sites, one in Westboro and one in Hopkinton. It sounds to me like Westboro's is the most feasible. So we're going to go with the chiefs and take a tour of that facility.
Evan, can I just ask, you mentioned that there was a kind of prescribed process,
Yes.
stepwise process from the state, and obviously there are some milestone dates and whatnot. Can you just put together a broad view for us at some point? Because this is all great information. It'd be good to actually see it on paper and understand.
Sure. I have that.
Awesome.
I can get that out.
Okay,
There.
great.
Yep. With the caveat that it's all subject to
Of course.
change.
Yep.
So yep, that's pretty much where we are. And I know none of you have seen the IMA yet. I don't foresee it being a huge hurdle for us. It's boilerplate. The one that I did in the western part of the state for Westcom, it's the exact same document. It's just got little tweaks here and there. So, it should be pretty straightforward.
The potential site in Hopkinton, were they pushing center school still?
Yep. So, and I think that's, make or break of what comes out of their public session tomorrow. But I will say that, working with Westboro and Southboro, they're dedicated to the process, at least following the prescribed timeline that the state gave us, and just making sure that we're giving everything its due diligence to be in a good place to make a decision.
So you're going to have that agreement before us before the end of February?
End of January.
Yes. January, ideally.
Yes.
If we sign off on that IMA, are we committed then to?
So we're committed that
That sets us up to apply for the grant.
right, and we're forming a district, right,
Okay.
a regional dispatch district. Having gone through this process before, I was working not my town, but another town. I mean, they were in and out like 4 times. So even though you're signing an IMA, there's outs along the way.
Still have a trap door in there.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but it does. I mean, it is a significant document. I mean, we're saying that we're dedicated to the process and we're going to continue on, and that the state's going to give us money in good faith to do these things, right?
Yeah.
So it's not something to take lightly, but I think that given the directions that we've been going, it that's just the next step in the process. So.
Okay. I guess I'm just wondering, as a board member who's going to have to make a decision on that, what information do we need to make that decision? And I feel like maybe some financial analysis. You mentioned the grant rounds, and obviously there's a significant financial implication to going this route versus Grafton having to go it alone.
Right.
And I think you've done a pretty good job describing, and with the visit that we did down to SEMREC, for us to understand how regional dispatch works and some of the pros and cons and whatnot. I think just for the public's sake, it might help to have some analysis on broad strokes.
Yep.
If Grafton is committed to moving in this direction, what does that mean for us in terms of services and taxes?
I'd like to do that all as part of the IMA meeting, so I can put
Good.
together a presentation if that works. I mean, you'll see it ahead of time because it'll be in the packet. But
That's great.
I can put together some finance. I have the presentation I did originally that has kind of the higher level functions of why would you want to, those type of things. So I'll slim that down just so that it again stays fresh for the public.
Yep.
But then go through maybe a little bit deeper of a dive into financials, and then has kind of the cursory timeline of what that would look like.
I think that would definitely help me. It feels like the IMA is a bit of a commitment, even if we have get outs and whatnot,
Yep.
if we're signaling as a board, we're on board with this, I think it'd be good for us and for the public to just take a little bit of a step back,
Absolutely.
look at it holistically and be able to see what it is that we're signaling that we're in favor of.
Yes, absolutely. I think
okay.
that makes perfect sense.
Awesome.
Southborough had the state come in and do a presentation. Should we try to reach out to them and see if they can do the same presentation here?
I can, yeah,
I mean, I watched their meeting and it seemed pretty informative, but
sure. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Good stuff.
I was waiting for William to finish my note here.
if they could do next Tuesday, we're pretty open.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's enough time.
Probably not. Yeah, which I won't be ready.
Well, you won't, but they
They won't be. Yeah, so that's a good idea, Colleen and Matt. I think all of that is good direction, and we'll get that put together for you. Public Employee Committee, that is our health insurance committee. It just keeps going. So we are really close to making what I think it will be an agreement. And I can't go into too much of it because it is a negotiation with the different unions, but I will say that it looks like any change that we make will not impact the employees really at all, but will save us probably in the neighborhood of 6% on our renewal, which is huge dollars for us. So we were looking at about a $550,000 increase over last year, and now we are looking at somewhere probably between 150 or less, and maybe even flat. But I'm leaning more towards 150 with some changes for the town as far as what we pay for the deductibles, which would save the town and the employees on the back end. So more to come on that, but I'm pretty hopeful. We made some good progress at the last meeting. Grafton Heating Assistance. So we've got pretty much all of our financials set. We just have to finalize our intake and policy. It has been challenging. We have staff that have been, just everybody has been sick or getting surgery, or it's been rough.
What are you saying?
No, I wasn't even pointing you up yet. No, it's been, I'll tell you what, it's been a heck of a 3 weeks around here. I mean, between everybody being sick and just people with scheduled medical procedures, and so we're getting there. We are taking it seriously, and it's something we know that we have time pressure on. It's just been a little bit hard to button everything up, but we're getting there. The Veterans District, as you know, we need a new VSO. So William's been involved in the hiring process with the other towns. They are currently working through offers for their candidate, and hopefully by the end of this week.
We have a meeting scheduled for the beginning of next week.
Okay. So then we should know the outcome then, and hopefully we have a candidate. We did have a good candidate pool, so I'm pretty happy with that, and I think we're going to get a good hire. And then DE&I, I have a meeting on Thursday for the final questions of our questionnaire on our side of the house.
Tomorrow morning.
It's tomorrow morning, so yeah, that's Thursday, right?
Sure.
Sure. Just don't show up on Friday because my Friday was Thursday. No, so we're real close. We've been making some really good progress working on that. I do like the company that we contracted with. They're really approachable and kind of walk you through areas that we're not really equipped to know how to handle, and so we're learning as we go. But yeah, so we should be done with that apparently tomorrow morning, and then we'll be ready to start pushing that out. Hopefully, within a couple of weeks. Start getting our feedback, and I think that's it.
All right, any questions or comments? Thank you for the lovely update.
Thank you.
Up next is correspondence. I only saw one in there from Penny Adams about George Hill Road. Do we know if anybody wrote back to her?
I didn't see that one. I don't know which one it is off the top of my head.
The 27th.
More or less reminding us of the poor condition of the road and
Oh,
drainage.
I don't. I did not. So, but I will do that.
But acknowledge that she understands we're working on it, just,
Mhm.
yep.
Oh, yeah, and I've
Yep.
talked to Miss Adams.
So we should start next year, right?
2024.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I will reach out to DPW and see if we've got our final our final design. That was the last piece we were waiting for so that we
Right.
could then start looking at bid documents and stuff, so.
Awesome. All right, and then we have some resignations that we can take some motions for.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Edward Bakilik from the Veterans Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And thank you, Edward.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Betsy Friedman Doherty from the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And thank you, Betsy.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Zoe Rasmussen, Sneha Balaje Prabhu, Elizabeth Tortson, Kayleen Foley, Michaela Frederico, and Sarah Cacciaputi as election workers for the town of Grafton.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And thank you, everybody. All right, and up next is public comment. Anybody on Zoom?
We have no hands on Zoom.
Great. And we have a couple set of meeting minutes to approve. Unless anybody has something specific to call out, we can take that all in one motion. Great.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for May 5, May 9, and December 13 of 2022 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. We do have a reason to go into executive session tonight. So if I can get a motion pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on a bargaining or litigation position of a public body, and the chair so declares.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. We will come back to public session just to adjourn the meeting. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.